So welcome everybody. My name is Teresa Shaver. I'm the Executive Director of the Business Advisory Center Durham. And together with our partners and our sponsors, we're very happy to have you here today for our upsales that's starting the, almost at spring session, but starting the fall session. I just want to note and say thank you to Jay Gilgannon from RBC for our breakfast. Thank you. He stayed up all night. Daniel from the town of Whitby, and Sheila. And we have community, one Kevin and Elsie, who are doing our videoing. So these files do go on our YouTube channel and also on One Community, One's channel. So please share it with people and watch them. We'd appreciate that. So hopefully I haven't forgotten anybody. Angelo and Frank also for helping us bring our sponsors and speakers together. We couldn't do it without you, so thank you very much. Just before I invite Frank up, there's one thing coming up for Durham. Does everybody know what it is?
Do it in Durham.
Do it in Durham, yes. It's our Global Entrepreneurship Week, so we generally have like 40 to 50 events in that week, and it's all around celebrating entrepreneurship, bringing together innovators, creators, job creators, and really celebrating entrepreneurship in Durham. So it's been going for 7 years. I'm happy to say that we have over 40 partners that take place in it. I'm excited about the different things that are going to happen this year. We're doing a whole bunch of different events. We're actually starting on Friday with the Biz Fest in Ajax, and then we have a Monday morning networking event here in this building where we get to introduce all the networking organizations of Durham region in one place so that people can get to know who they are. And then we'll go on to have all kinds of different events. A lot of events that Spark Center are going to be putting on as well around AI and technology. And then we're going to have Spark Angels put on an event. So just different things to bring our community together. And we truly hope it's going to be all across Durham region. So we are looking for presenters, for event locations, and any sponsors as well if anybody's interested. It's not that it costs a lot of money, it's just that we like to provide catering at some of the events so that we can cover that. So Frank, may I invite you up to introduce our speakers? Thank you.
Well, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Awesome. So listen, I am humbled. This is our 25th of this session. I was looking at the lineup that we've had here for the last 3 years. It's just been phenomenal. And it's our 7th of the year. So welcome back from summer, although it seems like summer is back. Look, I'm very excited today. It's Cannabis Day here. So I know you guys all showed up. So seriously, a big shout out to you guys for wanting to have this on, because if we don't have the attendees and we don't have the generous speakers who come out and sharing their journey, this would not be possible. So if you think about it, for 3 years running, this is pretty freaking awesome. So I want to have a little fun this morning because I met our speaker today through my wife, Kim. Kim runs the clinic here in Bowmanville, and she introduced me to the team, and I'm very excited when I met them. But I'm also excited because I have a reputation now where my wife gets phone calls from some of our Rotarian members saying, can you hook me up? So Joyce Marshall, for those of you that don't know Joyce, would you please just stand up for a second, please? Yes, you can stand up for your identity.
Is Joyce called to be hooked up?
Yes.
I knew it.
So just a quick story, then I'm going to introduce you, Wayne. I was golfing at a golf tournament for Barry Mount. By the way, Barry's our speaker in November, and my mentor from the Rotary. He is my sponsor at the Rotary. Joyce is also a Rotarian. There's a few other, Patrick, there's a few Rotarians in the room, Matthew. But I was at a golf tournament, and Barry Mount is the partner of HMA is Mr. Hardiman. And Mr. Hardiman is what, about 80, I guess, right now? Don't say that. Don't say that. Okay, just telling you too. Okay. Anyway, I'm walking with him, and he said that he was talking about having pain and how he's using cannabis, medical cannabis, to help his pain. And then we stopped at the next golf hole, and Joyce was there, manning the hole, because Joyce volunteers everywhere in Durham region with hospice and so on, and they're talking about pot. So Joyce is hitting me for pot, and she's taking it to the cottage. So that was the joke of the summer. But look, guys, this is very serious, and I know we joke. I belong to some angel groups that still have this stigma about investing in cannabis, but I can tell you that Kim and I have made our first two, or about to make our first two investments. One was in a company called Grobo. But if I can just have this young man, Simon, please, Simon. Simon came from Edmonton and he's in the cannabis space. When he heard that the team is here, how is that for sales, guys? He wasn't supposed to be here. So he flew from Edmonton, arrived here last night so that he could meet them. And that to me is, yes, that does for sales. Okay? So, but anyway, for the newbies, what is this about? Really, this is just sharing journeys, how the companies came to be, and also sending a message that all those sleepless nights, all those frustrations, all those business challenges that you have, you're not alone. We all have had them. But at the end of the day, they're going to share with you, first of all, a little bit of education about this cannabis space. But think about if even in your own business can fit into here somehow. Okay? But it's really a serious business, and I'm excited about it. It's our first that we've had, and can't wait to hear the talk. And of course, Wayne has brought a lot of his partners that they've helped grow the business together, and they're going to share their journey. So please, let me give you a little bit about what we promised you today. Even in medicine, driving top-line sales is critical if you want to survive and continue to meet the needs of your customers. Just join us as Wayne, the president of the Clinic Network, a private company that owns and operates 12 chronic pain management clinics across 4 provinces and locally here in Bowmanville. Provides multidisciplinary therapies for patients that suffer from chronic pain, rheumatoid conditions, and there's an entire list here, okay? He will share how they saw new market sales potentials, used a combination of market outreach programs, cultivated, you like the words that we're using in this? Cultivated centers of influence and developed strategic partnerships, some of them are here today, with companies like Canopy to grow their business and become a leading provider. So they're going to share with you some strategies. Hopefully you can attach them to your business strategy and kick down some doors, okay? So I'm going to give you a little about, the closing line on this was, if you're curious about this new hot sector, want to apply some of their tips to your business, see a few samples. This one I recognize in my house quite a bit. But only when she gets the discount. And be inspired to knock down doors, okay? So I'm going to introduce Wayne. Wayne has over 25 years experience in healthcare, specializing in business development, mergers and acquisitions, operations, and capital market strategies. Prior to joining TCN, his roles included working as an interim CEO at Agility Health and an investment banker with international capital management, Gravitas Securities, where he focused on emerging companies in the life sciences and technology studies. Wayne's background includes strategic planning, corporate finance, corporate partnership, corporate governance, mergers, acquisitions. A very talented man. Can't wait to hear it. So please, big welcome for Durham, for Wayne.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and thank you everybody for coming out today. Frank presented me with a bit of a challenge. We are first and foremost a medical company, but we also deal in medical cannabis, and so he said, I want you to have some fun with this. So it's difficult, but on the one hand we're talking chronic pain, but on the other hand we want to have a bit of fun with it. So just like our sponsor from Royal Bank, you were up baking last night, so were we, and we slipped some into the croissant. So if you haven't tried medical cannabis today, if you're at a croissant, you've tried it. The Clinic Network, or TCN, is one of the largest providers of out-of-hospital chronic pain medical services in Canada. In fact, with our 20,000 square foot clinic in Northorpe, it is the single largest out-of-hospital facility in Canada. We offer a wide range of medical services to help people with their chronic pain, and we currently operate in 12 clinics in 4 provinces. Chronic pain affects 1 in 5 people. Just look around you. And if it's not you, it's somebody that you know, or many people that you know. The cost of treating direct and indirect costs for chronic pain is greater than that to treat cancer, heart disease, and diabetes combined. In our industry, for treating chronic pain, it's a very fragmented industry. There's very few large players like ourselves. Most are small clinics that you'll drive by where they may only offer 1 or 2 services like massage therapy. And under capacity, anybody that's had to go and be part of a treatment, you understand that the wait time can be anywhere from a year to 3 years, and I've heard down east it can be even longer than that, to get in to see a specialist. So acute pain and chronic pain differ. with acute pain, you have an injury, you go see the doctor, you are assessed, they come up with a diagnosis, yes, you broke your arm, and there's a treatment, and you're cured. But with chronic pain, it's substantially different. Chronic pain, by definition, is pain that lasts 3 months or longer. But with chronic pain, you're going in to see the doctor probably not for the first time. And you've already probably been assessed, and you've been diagnosed, and you've been treated, but there is no cure. And one of the problems, too, that as a chronic pain patient is that typically physicians will prescribe you pain meds, opioids, and that sort of helps you get through the day. But what winds up happening is that you stay within the system. The treatment doesn't work, you're frustrated. You go back and you see another physician, another specialist. You're assessed again. There may be a different diagnosis and a different treatment, but again, it doesn't work. Chronic pain typically happens because of some serious injury in the past that wasn't treated properly, or a disease state such as cancer or fibromyalgia, where it's something that you're going to have potentially for the rest of your life, and the treatment is very, very difficult. Now, this does a couple of things. First is that it creates problems for the patient and the patient's families. There are obviously health problems, but there are socioeconomic problems. You're probably not working, and so you're feeling the pinch. There's emotional problems, there's depressions, and so on. So it's a very, very serious problem. The other thing that it does is it clogs up the system. The same patients are going around and around seeing the doctors, which prevents new patients from getting in, and that's one of the reasons that why you're waiting for so long. So the clinic network, we've built a pain management platform that is comprised really of 3 areas. Interventional pain management, which involves injections or implantable devices that may block nerve signals. Allied health services, which covers occupational therapy, physical therapy, chiropractic, massage therapy, and so on. And then alternative and integrative services, which includes orthotics, bracing, and medical cannabis. Now, this just gives you an idea of our footprint across Canada. We're currently 12 clinics in 4 provinces. We've just completed an acquisition of another 7 clinics. We're opening up 2 in Manitoba, so we expect to be around 20 clinics in 6 provinces by the end of the year. Sorry, and from humble beginnings, you wouldn't believe how long it took me to find this slide.
It's not Photoshop.
So we started our first medical cannabis clinic back in 2013, and opened up a number of other clinics following that. But about 2 years ago, when the government indicated that they were going to be legalizing recreational cannabis, we realized that we needed to expand our service to include other pain-related treatments. So having gone from medical cannabis, these are the services that we provide today. I'm not going to go through these. At some point I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Steve Livshin, who heads up our medical and clinical affairs. If you have any specific questions on some of the services that are included on here, Steve is here and he'd be more than happy to help you. But today, medical cannabis actually only represents less than 5% of our revenue. We expect that's going to go up as more and more people become educated, more and more people try the croissants, so we expect that number to go up. Our corporate strategy is to become the leader in chronic pain management in Canada. As I mentioned, we're going to be doing this through 4 key steps. The first was to create the platform. And this is the platform whereby we provide a wide range of medical services. Very few companies in Canada that can do this. The second is to leverage our expanding network to put our arms around as many patients as possible. The third is to consolidate what is a very highly fragmented industry. And finally, next year, after some anticipated changes this October, we plan on selling medical pain treatment healthcare products largely based on CBD through our clinical network. But how can you apply these techniques that we use to build our business to help you build your business? When I asked Frank to describe the profile of the people that would be in attendance today, he mentioned that most of the people are going to be small business owners. Many of them, in fact, will work from their own home. And he also told me that these events were also designed to provide tips that we use to help you increase your sales. That being said, I realize that some of the strategies that we use may on the surface not seem to be appropriate for your business. But if you take the time to study them, you'll probably find that these can be used very effectively in your business. The first idea that I want to share with you today is creating one or more strategic partnerships with other companies or organizations that target similar markets as you do. Forming strategic partnerships with other like-minded businesses is a smart way for both companies to get ahead and to help each other. And here's some things to keep in mind. Know your market. Who is it that you're selling goods to? Are you a B2B company? Are you a B2C company? And go beyond vague definitions of your company. Try to pinpoint exactly what your average customer looks like. And if you aren't sure what size company or the age consumer that is buying your products, you may have to do some additional market research to look into this. But once you have the answers to these kinds of questions, seek out other local companies with the same focus. And while you clearly don't want a strategic partner with a competitor, you don't necessarily want to establish a partnership with somebody that doesn't understand your sector. Think of your target market as a whole and come up with a list of other interests that your consumers may have. And let me give you an example. Say you make and distribute organic baby food. You should seek out other small businesses that deal with parents of babies. A nearby daycare could be a great spot to drop off your business cards, your flyers, and in exchange, you could offer to put up their banner on your website. That's a very simple example. But let me give you another real-world example. I think earlier this year, Frank, you had a company called Dimples that presented here. Dimples manufactures and distributes jewelry that uses people's fingerprints as part of their design. Now think of who their customers might be. Couples getting married or just couples, new parents or grandparents, best friends and so on. So what other products or services do these people buy? Well, just off the top of my head, there's baby imprint castings. We did that. You can approach those types of companies. Photography services, wedding planning services, doulas. It doesn't take long to put together a list. For your business, think about how you can help their business. And then sit down with them and explore ways in which the two of you could work together. Now, as I said, these are two very simple examples, and obviously some businesses are way more complex and are going to require more thought. Find bigger brands that share a similar audience and look for a win-win solution. Successful partnerships are all about identifying other companies that have similar interests and similar customers. And just because you're small, don't think that the larger companies aren't interested in partnering with you. All you have to do is look at small biotech and big pharma, or look at the relationship between small mining companies and large mining companies, or small tech and large tech. Those types of partnerships exist. Larger companies are looking for the same thing that we are looking for. They're looking for additional revenue and different revenue silos. And also look to other startup companies as well. It doesn't have to be with a big brand company. In fact, it's these types of partnerships that, when they're successful, can often lead to a merger, which creates that 1 + 1 = 3 elusive scenario. And this is also a strategy that can be used not just for products, but for services as well, too. And if that describes you, try and find other businesses that offer complementary services. So, for example, a lot of lawyers will work with accountants and establish a referral network. Plumbers work with electricians or builders. These types of partnerships work because they give you additional capabilities that you can provide your customers through those relationships, while also providing a source of referral business from your partner. And if you're going to take the time to build a partnership, try to build one that's got at least a chance at lasting a long time. When you think about it, it's hard to think about a time when there wasn't a Starbucks on every corner. One of the ways that Starbucks became the industry giant that it is by leveraging strategic partnerships. One example of their partnership strategy is their relationship with Barnes & Noble in the United States, and Chapter's up here. It's a perfect example. What they've done is they're giving readers and shoppers a reason to hang out in the store, and it's giving Starbucks access into a very large retailer. So when you find a partnership that works, aim to build a long-term deal. And as you build the partnership roster, because we're talking about more than one partnership, try to find solutions that benefit both parties. Never lose sight of that. It can't be about you. Because your success is going to depend on a win-win relationship. And also remember that finding the right partners and coming up with the right deal doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes modifications. When you sign a deal, that deal gets put away. You don't go back to it. But you work with your partner, and if things need to be changed, you change the deal, and you go back to the partnership. And you may not always see results from your partnership initiatives or cross-promotions overnight. But it's worth the time to spend on putting together the right deal. Finally, regularly assess your partnerships. Are they meeting your prescribed goals? If you simply want to build brand reputation, measuring sales might not be the best measurement tool. But if you want sales to increase, then you need a different metric in place that lets you measure exactly how that partnership is performing. And remember to keep your own goals as a priority. And always continue networking. And cut the tie when partnerships are no longer working. Now, this is just an example of how we've set up our partnership strategies. I'm not going to go through all those, but I'll just give you a couple of examples. Our pharmacy partners up on the top right-hand side. We're working with a number of pharmacies to create a strategic relationship that extends into a number of different areas, but the most obvious is a referral network, a cross-referral network. Chronic pain patients will come in and speak with the pharmacist, and if there's a medical cannabis angle, even if there's not, there's a referral back. And then we're working on referring business in through the pharmacies. Our allied health affiliates. This is a very important one for us. Even though we're going to have 20 clinics by the end of the year, not all of the clinics are going to be offering all of the medical services that we currently provide in our North York clinic. And so we will continue to partner with smaller clinics that operate in the geographic area where we're located to provide services that we don't provide at that clinic, and in exchange establish a referral for chronic pain patients that we can't treat, even if it's on the medical cannabis side. One of the other techniques we use to increase revenue is to work closely with centers of influence. Centers of influence are those people or organizations that can boost your market access and credibility through referrals, testimonials, and simple word of mouth. These are people who are generally very well established, and they're good networkers, and they can introduce you to the kind of markets or customers that you need and are looking for. And ideally, you should be in the network of several centers of influence. So why is this important? A large consumer research organization in the United States has conducted a number of studies around this, and they found that the influential segment of the population is, quote, remarkable for its consistency, and typically deeply involved in their communities, both socially and politically. What does this mean? Well, their research suggests that winning the confidence of one center of influence can create 6 loyal customers. And out of those 6 loyal customers, you may be able to establish 1 or 2 new centers of influence. So you can see that there's a real exponential opportunity for growth within that business. So here are some simple steps that you can take to cultivate your own centers of influence. First of all, you've obviously got to identify and target your centers of influence. Who can help you grow your business? Who will introduce you to desirable new customers? For us, at TCN, it's lawyers, accountants, auditors, physicians. What you have to do is look at your specific business. Who are the type of people, organizations, that talk to customers that you'd like to meet? The next point is probably one of the most important, and that's defining value. What genuine, unique value can you offer your centers of influence? What do you or your company bring to the table? What skills, contacts, information, resources do you have? Imagine you're a startup business and you're doing a pitch on Shark Tank. What would you say? And where do your centers of influence hang out? Do they belong to any specific business organizations, associations, or networking groups? And do you have a presence there? And it's your responsibility to approach your potential centers of influence. And that means you better have an arsenal of material that you can use to get their attention. And I'm not talking about keychains or golf balls or vape pens or anything like that. What you need is conversation and compelling evidence that you're special and unique. And yes, a little dog and pony show is very helpful. And if you don't already have an elevator pitch for your business, create one. Once you've done that, go back to defining your value and make sure you're clear on what it is that makes you unique from your competitors. And speak up. A warm introduction to a center of influence is far better than a cold one. Let those people in your network, including your employees, friends, professionals you work with, your board, let them know what you're looking for. Get your message out and tell them specifically who you're looking to meet. Influential people have incredible networks that once you tap into can bring a lot of new business into your company. And with them, what's in it for me? So, being human nature tends to be fairly selfish. We're much more interested in how they're going to help us. But if you're going to create a win-win situation, you absolutely have to consider, figure out, and let them know how you're going to be able to help them grow their business. And inviting participation. Centers of influence typically like to engage with other people. So if you're having some type of an event, such as this event, where you're sponsoring it or you're leading it, invite your centers of influence into that to hear that. Give them a chance to meet people within your network. And keeping in touch. Establishing the initial contact and making your pitch is only half the battle. You must retain and maintain your relevance by staying under the nose of your centers of influence. LinkedIn is a good start, but you also want one-on-one communication. Bring together or create unique content of information that could be of value to them and share it. And make sure you invite influencers, as I say, to any events and let them do the same. And finally, reward your centers of influence. When a center of influence gives you a lead or makes an introduction for you, show your appreciation right away. Even if there's not a sale or anything that comes out of it, let them know that you appreciate what they're doing for you. The final technique that we use may be one that you already use, and we call it community outreach. And this activity takes time, and it probably costs a few bucks. But the value that it can bring to you and your business could be priceless. You have to think about it. Throughout your business life, you have gained experiences, valuable experiences others in different industries won't have had. Don't be afraid to share with others what you've learned. In business, you can act as a mentor, or you can do public speaking, such as I'm doing today. And I talked earlier about creating written content that others can use for their audience. There's all kinds of blogs, newsletters that are always looking for written content. They're struggling to find it. Help them with it. Or you could offer discounts to specific market groups, such as seniors. But establish your corporate character as one that is recognized for giving back. Let your actions speak for the organization. For the final part of my presentation, I want to briefly touch on something that may have drawn a few people in today, and that's the croissants. Frank mentioned that we have a clinic in Bowmanville, just east of here. Kim, we're lucky to have Kim as a big part of that. Not only do we offer medical cannabis services at this clinic, but we also offer telemedicine service for patients where medical cannabis may not be the solution to the issue. And as with the rest of our clinics, we're going to continue to add additional services either directly or through partnerships, more than likely through partnerships, as I stressed earlier, to be able to broaden that circle of health or circle of care, if you will. Medical cannabis is a treatment option that seems to address a number of conditions. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence out there, and there's more and more clinical evidence that's coming to the surface as well. But 2 out of 3 people that use medical cannabis are using it for chronic pain. Now, before I talk about your amygdala,
Sorry?
actually, I'm not going to talk about your amygdala. At this point, I'd like to introduce Dr. Steve Lifshin, who heads up our clinical and medical affairs, and Steve is going to talk to you about your amygdala.
Thanks, Wayne. I hope to not bore you guys too much with the amygdala, but I'm Vice President of Clinical Affairs at the Clinic Network. I'm also the Managing Director of our main pain center in North York. I was invited by Wayne today to give you guys a everyday version of what we do on a regular basis in our medical clinics. So I'm going to start from explaining my journey in medical school. We actually learned that cannabis is a Schedule I narcotic. So if you guys aren't aware, Schedule I narcotics are heroin and ecstasy. So that means that there's no medical value and it's an illicit, illegal drug that should never be used. So unfortunately, they didn't give opiates the same benefit of scheduling it as the most, dangerous drug that's out there. But people classify it today as a painkiller. We know that there's a lot of reasons why people have pain. Pain is described as a symptom, not necessarily as a disease. There's usually a disease state behind the symptom, but there's a broad range of different diseases that could actually lead to the symptom of pain. And many of them lead to chronic pain. There's situations where you can get into a traumatic event or you can injure yourself, and there are strategies where actually opiates might work. So if you get hospitalized in an injury in a car accident, they'll provide morphine to you and they'll provide immediate relief, but that's because it's a peripheral pain. And so the reason the amygdala is up here is because this is a part of your brain inside that we call a central mechanism. So cannabis tends to work not necessarily on the peripheral pain, but on the central mechanisms in your brain that are actually signaling that pain is there and that it's in the way of your ability to function. So when we provide cannabis to patients, and I'll go through, without boring you guys too much on the science of each of the molecules, because it's a very unique space. There's 102 licensed producers, and it's probably more by the time the slide deck was up and running. There's 500 known cannabis strains legally in these licensed producers, and probably tens of thousands on the black market. And each individual cannabis strain actually has a range of different active ingredients and cannabinoids within it. Within that, there are different variations, different strengths. And so the medical research community is actually working actively now, picking up the pace to understand how that evidence, because we work with evidence-based medicine, we need to see how it works and why it works. And to go back a little bit on history on why opiates were actually allowed to be used, it was a study back in the 60s that showed that in a 7-day period, people felt more benefit from an opiate, from morphine, than they did from aspirin. And that in a 7-day period, nobody got addicted. Well, the addiction doesn't typically happen in that first week. It typically happens once the strategy fails. And what we know is that in your brain, centrally, the more you use it, the less it works. So you're kind of going against yourself. Further to that, opiates have an increased amount of social isolation. It decreases your immune function. There's an incredible amount of morbidity related to it. There's 130 Americans that die every day. There's 10 Canadians that die every day. With a strategy where you're going up a mountain backwards, it doesn't make sense. But unfortunately, the marketplace doesn't provide many good alternative means to actually treat your pain. Our center deals with a lot of specialists. We have a lot of modalities, a lot of different therapies that apply to specific conditions, but those are specific to target the actual disease state and try to help the symptom locally. Cannabis, we found to be an incredible agent to work on the symptoms of pain in your brain. And what we described, it decreases the unpleasantness of pain. So it decreases your threshold. And in contrast to that, opiates actually make you more sensitive to pain. So if you've ever spoken with a patient who's on high doses of narcotics or painkillers, if you just physically touch them, they're actually more sensitive to touch and pain. And if you try to actually reduce the patient's dose of those medications, they become even more sensitive to the pain. So it's an incredible challenge that we're facing to address these issues in the community. And we often offer a better alternative strategy. And cannabis, we've found to be a relegated to, not science, has come back into play as a very useful tool for us to actually, provide patients with symptom management with, I don't remember the actual number, but I think you have to smoke 100,000 joints in the period of a minute to overdose and die from it. Wow. It decreases inflammation. There is, of course, a risk of addiction with that.
Good thing I was at 99.
Just the green button. You press the black.
So there's anything has an addictive nature into it, and part of that is a person's personal behaviors. Cannabis has a much lower addiction risk than other medications, and within cannabis there's a wide range of products that can be used that actually completely reduce the risk of addiction. We use CBD actually as a way to treat the withdrawal symptoms of patients who are trying to wean off of opiates. THC, which is the psychoactive component of cannabis, is something that we deal with carefully because we understand the psychoactive effects could affect people. So within that, we've, over the past few years, spent our time really gathering the medical data. Our patient population is probably around 100,000 over the past decade that we've treated in our facility in North York with various types of therapies, including specialist interventional pain management strategies that we use. And we found that in our data, we've really compiled ways to safely treat patients in masses and really dial it down to the specific disease states to figure out what's the best strategy for the patient. And that's why it's complex. It's not what the guy on the side of the street is selling you, which actually might be the best strategy for you. And so this is where the medical kind of knowledge, experience, and data gathering, actually producing that research and data is actually very useful. So at the Clinic Network, many years ago, we developed a strategy that both compiled our protocols and processes that we deliver to patients and delivered the easiest way that we can deliver that back out to the community. And so whether it's in a physical presence or it's by telemedicine, patients can access us from across the country. They can gain access to our medical professionals who've dealt with chronic pain patients, who've dealt with all the different licensed producers, all the available products that are in the marketplace. And we're actively working together in partnership with some of these companies to actually develop products based on our experience and knowledge in that space. So our process at the Clinic Network, we've tried to make as easy as possible. Although we need, for our purposes in pain management, a very robust file. We want to really understand what's behind the scenes in your diagnostic or in your disease state. From a cannabis perspective, we don't want to make things overly complicated. We want to bring the patient in, understand what methods they've tried, what they haven't, what has worked, what hasn't, and where does cannabis fit into that. Very rarely does cannabis really solve everybody's problems. So it's really always a multimodal approach. You have to stay active, you have to exercise. We're not really picky on which one of the strategies you do. You have to keep your mental health and wellness in check. Again, whether it's Tai Chi or a psychologist or your partner or a colleague, having ways to treat those issues are important. Our specialty area is interventional pain management, and then there's an arm of pharmacological management that Wayne put up on that slide. Pharmacology has existed for quite some time. There's large pharmaceutical companies who've all worked on these different molecules and strategies for us to actually get the therapies and benefits that they've provided. What we know, and there's some companies who've actually developed synthesized versions of cannabis. They don't work as well as the actual flower. They don't work as well as the actual plant. And so there's much that we don't know today. And as we go through this process, we're starting to uncover all the different cannabinoids, all the different advantages to the plant in itself. And that's why I think it's a very interesting space to be in that is also very unique. There's not other medications that kind of fall within all the other domains of disease states. Although we're specialists in chronic pain, it treats anxiety, it treats depression, it treats chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting. It goes around inflammation. A lot of patients who have autoimmune conditions, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, have found benefits not only from the pain side, but also from the anti-inflammatory properties of the plant. And so we're kind of going back in medicine to the origins of where medicine came from, which was actually organic, botanical types of plants. And a lot of the medications that were synthesized actually all came from those botanical, organic plants. So it's an interesting time to be involved in pain management and when we have this useful tool. And it's very important for us to address people who are really going down the wrong trajectory, that their strategies are failing today. And we know that they're at increased risk of harm from, the decreased quality of life, isolation from a social economics perspective, and from our perspective as physicians, increased morbidity. They're dying. So we want to get and address those issues in the best way that we can. And so thank you, Wayne, for inviting me today. We've, this is more related to our producers, but we've tried to make it as easy as possible for patients to actually access the care. It's not what you can go and pick up in a store down the street or in your dealer. There's really legitimate evidence. There's legitimate ways in which these products are grown. And even within the products that are grown, there's variation. This is a plant, right? So you want to work with legitimate businesses that actually have put in the proper effort to make sure that those safety practices are in place, that it's actually the medication that you intended to have. There's no, illicit other products in there that are really geared to gaining faster growth or just doing things faster than necessary. And so, it's a great collaboration that we have with the licensed producers where they're working on the medication side and they're actually actively helping and doing the research behind some of the products that we're initiating. And we hope to work together in the bigger picture, actually bringing our knowledge back to that as well and creating proprietary products that will actually access our patients in pain management. So I could go on for hours about opiates, about pain management, but you guys can feel free to ask me any questions that you might have after the talk.
Awesome.
At this point, I'd like to introduce Jim Andrews, who's with Spectrum Therapeutics, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Canopy, one of the largest and most significant LPs, licensed producers in Canada, and one of our most important partners. Going back to what I was talking about, building partnerships, even before the session started today, talking to Jim and George about expanding our partnership into clinical research as well too. So these partnerships may start at one level, but they'll grow beyond that if they're effective partnerships. So anyway, Jim, hand it over to you.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here today. So I've been in the medical cannabis industry now for 6 years as a representative of Spectrum Therapeutics. I'd just like to share with you the culture of our company, who we are, and what we do. So Spectrum Therapeutics, we're committed to medical and to those patients with unmet medical needs. As you can see, we are the leaders in medical education. The purpose of this, we were created not only to enhance the experience for over 340,000 Canadians currently using medical cannabis, but also for the millions more that could benefit from medical cannabis in the future. So we know that healthcare professionals still need to get accustomed to this therapy treatment approach, and that's why we are dedicated to our medical education across all stakeholders, as you can see. We have a dedicated spectrum supply for medical patients. We know that consistent supply isn't just nice to have, it's a necessity. So with our 12 locations across Canada, we have over 5.6 million square feet of dedicated supply space, with one of our locations being in Bowmanville. So we are Durham related. Canopy growth production, obtaining genetics. So here we, Canopy growth, we breed our own genetics. Each plant is going to be tracked from seed to sale. Finding winners are Canopy phenotype selections. Phenotype selections is growing out large amounts of seeds throughout their life cycle and observing and recording their characteristics. Those best plants are selected for growth structure, aroma, yield, and pathogen resistance. It's also important to lab test each product for the chemotype for all measurable compounds. And the main goal is the spectrum to be able to offer a variety and replicate standardized products each and every time for a consistent customer experience. Canopy quality assurance. So every product goes through valid lab testing. It's going to meet the specifications defined in the European Pharmacopoeia, and that exceeds Health Canada's requirements. So we surpass Health Canada regulatory requirements with respect to the microbial count by 50%. 6 cannabinoids, 21 terpenes, heavy metals, yeast, molds, and bacteria. We systematically and monthly test for over 68 pesticides, microscopic visual inspection, as well as full pasteurization. So what is legal and what is not? So right now, through the legal program, the product forms that are available are dry flower, oils, and soft gels. And there are currently draft regulations for new product offerings and formulations, which would include edibles, topicals, and concentrates, all with an upcoming launch later this year. Industry's first color-coded system for all formats. The Spectrum is a straightforward color-coding system that simplifies the understanding of medical cannabis for patients as well as healthcare practitioners. Each color represents a category based on THC and CBD. The red represents products that are THC dominant with little to no CBD. Blue represents products that are more balanced in THC and CBD ratios. And our yellow represents our CBD dominant product with little to no THC. And all Spectrum therapeutic products can be categorized by the Spectrum, making it easier to select the right product for patients. Going through a few of our products, red cannabis oils, soft gels. Red cannabis oils are made from plants where the predominant cannabinoid is THC. Orange is an indica-dominant hybrid. THC is the predominant cannabinoid in this strain, but it's well suited for those previous cannabis experience who find that THC is helpful. Purple is our hybrid strain. Though the predominant cannabinoid is THC, it's lower than most strains, making it well suited for those new to cannabis. Blue oils and soft gels. They're made from plants with the cannabinoid profile exhibits an equal balance of THC and CBD. Green is our hybrid strain, again with a balanced THC and CBD. It's well suited for those who'd like to try THC for the first time, but as well as experienced consumers looking to add CBD into their routine. Yellow is made from a hybrid strain and it's standardized to our CBD concentration. That's it. We'll miss the slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. I'd like to open it up for any questions that you may have. Call upon myself or Jim or Steve. If you've got questions that you're uncomfortable asking out loud, we're going to be staying a little bit afterwards. There's some information up here on the Spectrum products. There's information on the clinic network and the services, but at this point, I'll open it up if there's any questions.
it's challenging to really make change happen fast. And so having worked in a lot of hospitals in Toronto, I can tell you that you really have to provide them all the evidence over and over again. You have to sit on different boards. You have to really get your message across to deliver something new and change the way the system's designed. And so a lot of what's happening and in correlation in partnerships with those hospital networks or academic institutions, it's actually they've appreciated the benefit of sending that out to the community, right? They don't necessarily want to participate in cannabis management if they're not experts in it, but they now are starting to refer us patients to actually be able to help them in the long-term management. Because today, when you get discharged from hospital, you're getting a week's worth of painkillers. And that's what sets off the trend, right? So they understand that as doctors, we are responsible for a lot of the issues that where we are today. The lack of strategies, the promotion of the wrong products. It was because there were no other alternative strategies. This was, you know, until very recently, was illegal, was something that you get put in jail for. People in the United States continue to face that, you know, that kind of fate. And so today we're kind of doing catch-up, adopting it and translating it into everyday usage. But we, you know, stand out as market leaders from a delivery model to be able to accession it to as many patients as possible in the safest way possible. It's no longer just allowing you to do it, it's really providing you the proper information and evidence where it exists. And a lot of that push didn't come from doctors, it came from patients. People were using it for so long, people were getting arrested, people were having trouble traveling, that, you know, there's so much pressure politically to make this happen and decriminalize it, that then just drove this propagation of the efforts to actually, now medical comes in, now recreational comes in and really solves why this issue, that this plant that's been used for thousands of years, all of a sudden it can't be.
Trees.
Taking photos. Okay. There is, of course, materials here and some literature, and we will be here, and so will the presenters today. Frank, did you want to?
So Barry's up on October 16th.
Thank you.
Barry's our next speaker.
Thank you, Barry.
Yes, October 16th, so please join us. Barry's got a great journey to share. And
It's exciting as Canopy.
these are the benefits people. So
I've known Barry for a very long time, and one of the thoughts I had if he was going to speak was how giving back has grown your business. And I think it's a great topic. Well, I just made it up for you, but it's a great topic. So I hope you guys can all join us here next month, and then of course we also have one coming up in November for this year, so that's the lineup for this year. Thank you everybody, have a wonderful day.